Hey gang, and welcome back. These videos are brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your unused collection fast and easily. 401 Games, Canada's top shop for all your hobby and TCG needs. Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. Moxfield, the easiest way to store and share your deck lists. And Foil Armor, flatten your foils fast. I win the die roll and start us off. I draw and play a tapped Manor Gate. Mika plays a tapped Swiftwater Cliffs, gaining 1. Maximus just plays a mountain. Ian's got a Tainted Wood and passes. My turn has me drawing and playing out Thespian Stage. I then tap it for an exploration map. Mika's got a mountain for turn and taps it to cast Lava Spur Boots. Max just plays a forest. Ian's got a forest as well, and I'm surprised that we don't see more elves out, but he just passes after that. I play a tapped Lair of the Hydra, and then pay 2 for a Satyr Wayfinder. I keep one of the lands from my top 4, and bin the rest. Mika's turn has a Choked Estuary coming in, and he reveals a Swamp so it comes in untapped. Max just drops an island, and then pays a blue, a red, and a green to cast Averna, passing once his commander's out. Ian draws and plays a command tower. He taps 3 for Satina, and as she comes in, he goes to find a basic for hand. I play Dreamroot Cascade, and tap 3 for a Chromatic Lantern. I then waste no time tapping the rest of my mana to crack the Expedition map, and go and find Baldur's Gate to put to hand. Mika's just got an island and casts his commander with Obeka. Maximus' turn has him playing a mountain, and he casts Shardless Agent and gets to Cascade. He reveals until he hits a Rampant Growth, and with Averna's ability, is able to play Temple of Mystery. He goes to find a basic, and then resolves the Scry trigger. Going to combat, he hits me with Averna for 4, and passes. Ian's got a Swamp, and casts Lathril in his main phase. Going to combat, Satina goes at me, and Ian returns a land to his hand with her ability to give Lathril a +1/+1 counter. I then take the hit, and Ian passes. I've got a forest for turn, and then bring out Omo. As my commander enters, I give the forest and the Wayfarer an everything counter, and then cast a Scoot Swarm and pass. Miko's got a Shizo Death Storehouse for turn, and then plays a Plarg and Nasari. Mika is then able to swing Obeka at Max easily, since she has Menace and Max only has 1 blocker, and Max takes the hit, with Mika gaining 2 extra upkeeps. We resolve the first Plarg and Nasari trigger, exiling our top cards until we hit a non-land one. Ian is then chosen as the opponent, and denies Mika the Mirage Mirror. This has Mika casting Marwyn from Ian, and a Smoldering Stagecoach from Max. We then move to the second upkeep, and resolve another Plarg and Nasari trigger, exiling until we hit our non-lands, and this time Mika picks me. I do not let him have my Seagate Restoration, and he casts a Moldervine Reclamation, and Maximus' Boarding Party. This gets Mika a Cascade. He reveals off the top until he hits a Quakebringer, casting it, and passing. Max draws, and plays out Jessica's Will in his main phase, gaining 7 red mana, and exiling his top 3 because he controls his commander. He first off casts Faldorn from exile, and then uses more of his floating mana to cast the exiled Mana Geyser, making 13 more red mana, and a 2/2 Wolf token from Faldorn. Max then plays the exiled Is It Boilerworks, bouncing a land to hand, and making another Wolf token. He follows that up with a Volcanic Torrent, and cascades into Ancestral Visions, drawing 3, and making another 2/2 Wolf. The Torrent then resolves, dealing 5 to each opponent's creature and Planeswalker. Mika draws and gains some life from the Moldervine as his creatures hit the yard, and after all that resolves, Max continues, casting an Ingenuity Engine, cascading again until he hits Keeper of Secrets, making another Wolf token from Faldorn. Max then uses the rest of his floating mana and lands to cast a Crystal Shard, and he goes to combat after that. He swings a Shardless Agent and Averna and Mika, dropping him back to 40. Ian draws and plays a Swamp. He taps 3 mana for Tyvar the Belligerent, and passes after that. my turn has Baldur's Gate coming in, which I had tutored for earlier, and I recast Omo. I put her everything counter onto herself and the Dreamroot Cascade, and pass after that. Mika's turn has a Sulphur Falls coming in, and he pays 2 mana for Rakdos Signet. He then plays a Strionic Resonator, and ships it afterwards. Maximus draws, and casts Layla in his main phase, which Mika is quick to respond to by countering it with Counterspell. Maximus then puts to sack a Sakashima's protege, and cascades into a Midnight Clock. He also gets to play a land from exile with a Spine Rock Knoll, which comes in tapped, and he gets to hide away a card, plus make a wolf token since he played it from exile. The clock then comes in, and he deals 3 to Mika with the Keeper trigger, plus makes another wolf token from Faldorn. Max then has the protege entering the battlefield as a copy of the clock, and he then moves to combat. He swings the wolves and Keeper at Ian. Ian blocks 1 wolf token, taking it out, but takes the rest to the face. Ian's turn has him playing a Mana Confluence, and taps out, losing 1 from the Confluence, to recast Lathril. I've got an Urza's Cave as my land drop, and I then swing Omo at Ian, putting another everything counter onto a land to increase my gate count. Ian blocks her with Tyvar though, and I pass after that. Mika's got an island and recasts Obeka. He gears her up with the Lavispur boots, and then passes since he can't really use the upkeeps right now. During his end step, Max activates the real Midnight Clock to put a counter onto it, so that 2 clocks won't go off at the same time. On Max's upkeep, he adds another counter to his clocks as he's been doing on each upkeep, and in his main phase, he casts Throes of Chaos. This has him cascading into a Delayed Blast Fireball, and because it's in exile when he casts it, he does the 5 instead of the normal 2. Responding to the Keeper of Secrets targeting Mika for 3 damage, Ian then taps Lathril to make Tyvar indestructible, and tap him as well. I also activate Baldur's Gate to float 5 mana, before I lose Omo and the everything counters become meaningless. Mika then takes the 3, with Max making a wolf token, and each of Max's opponents and their creatures take 5. Max also gets to play a land he exiled to the Cascade, putting out a Riveteer's Overlook, which he then sacrifices, gains 1 from, and goes to find a forest or a mountain. Max then taps 4 mana and discards a land to retrace the Throes of Chaos from his graveyard. With that on the stack, I use 4 of my floating mana to put to field Talon Gates of Madara, which as it enters, phases out Max's Keeper of Secrets. The first Keeper trigger still happens since it wasn't from Max's hand, and I take another 4, but hopefully in the long run I've saved us from more damage. Max then cascades into a Kadama's Reach, making a wolf token and going to find a basic for the field and 1 for his hand. Max then activates the Spine Rock Knoll, which allows him to cast a Bloodbraid Challenger, which is also from exile. This has him making a wolf token, and he then cascades into a Chaos Warp, plus gets to play a Moss Warp Bridge from his cascaded cards, and as it enters, hides away another card. He makes a total of 3 wolf tokens at this point. And Chaos Warp then targets the Smoldering Stagecoach, and it gets shuffled into his library. Max then shuffles, and reveals off the top a Maelstrom Wanderer, which comes into play. Thankfully it doesn't get the Cascade since it just comes into play and isn't cast, but it does mean that all of Max's wolf tokens now have haste. Moving to combat, he then swings out enough to take out Ian, and swings enough at Mika and I to drop us to 17 and 16 respectively. Max then passes, and during his end step, I sacrifice Urza's Cave, going to find a Rogue's Passage, which I realize in hindsight won't really do very much. I untap and draw. I play an Urza's Power Plant as my land for turn, and recast Omo, adding the everything counter onto herself and the Thespian Stage. Mika's got a Swamp, and in his main phase, casts Sphinx of the Second Sun, which normally would be a fantastic card for his deck. Unfortunately for him, it's 1 blocker against a wolf army, and he passes through his second main phase, and after it, gains an additional beginning phase, untapping, upkeeping, and drawing another card. Mika then passes, and during his end step, Max adds another counter onto his real Midnight Clock. On his upkeep, Max adds more counters to his clocks, and his main phase has him casting Solve the Equation. going to find Fierce Guardianship, just in case of interaction. He then swings his team at Meek and I, and with not enough blockers, we both get taken out. Game review time. This was another bit of a quick one, as I'm pretty sure as you saw Game review time. This was a bit of a quick one, as I'm pretty sure you saw yourself, because let's face it, as soon as Averna came out, the gloves are off and Max went full tilt. I think the strongest card this game was probably Averna herself, as it allowed Max's deck to just really explode. Cascade is a fun mechanic that's often overcosted for underpowered cards, but you get an additional card with it. Couple that with the fact that Max was also getting a land each time he cascaded pretty much, was wild. Not to mention that he had Faldorn getting him so many wolves from the get-go, it was awesome to see in person. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.